Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm terribly sorry, but for the upcoming next 2 weeks, I will be not posting new videos because I did pre-record those 2 new videos, but something went wrong. So here I am posting existing videos, which are actually from my 30 JavaScript and HTML and CSS course. Okay, so this is actually a project. I'm again terribly sorry. I'm going to make this up somehow for you. Actually, I'm going to leave a coupon code for the course in the video description, a lowest price possible. So if you wish to check that out, please feel free to do so. I'm going to come back in approximately 2 weeks. And until then, once again, sorry, enjoy the video. So, see you. Bye-bye. Hey, what is going on, everyone, and welcome to another project. In this project, we're going to create a simple project manager in JavaScript. Now, for this, we're going to use a couple of things. For example, we're going to use getElementById, query selector all. We're going to use variables like let and const, functions, regular functions. We could also use arrow functions. We're also going to use temporary literals in some cases, comparison operators, DOM elements. We're going to style and manipulate a bit DOM classes, actually elements from the class. And we're also going to use an alternative to if and else if statements, which are ternary operators. Okay, so let's also take a look at the finished project. So as I said, basically we're going to have a manager which is going to show us the tasks that are in the project. Let's say the first task will be to create a project. So create. Then we need to assemble team. Oh, mistyped here. Now where is assemble team? Assign team leader. Let's say set milestone and set end date. Okay, so let's say create project is finished, assemble team is finished, and also set milestones are finished. And if we click on delete, then it's going to delete all. Actually, should delete all 3 of them. Okay, so there are only those are going to remain that are active. So this is a bit different than a task manager, but it's still using the same principle. Okay, so let's get started with the project. Okay, first things first, let's create an empty folder, and within here create our index.html. Let's start with the boilerplate, shift exclamation mark. Within here, we're going to include materialized CSS. So let's go to materializedcss.com, get started. And let's also include the link. And also let's link up our style.css, which we still need to create. So link keyword, and style.css. Okay, let's go into the body. And within here, first of all, I'm going to create a form. Whoops. Into the body tags. Between the body tags, let's create a form which will contain the task manager. So form, let's say the action will be hash, so it's not going to go anywhere. And we're also going to give our form a ID of form. Now let's go into the form, and let's start within here with creating a div with the class of input container. Within our input container, we're going to have a label. We're going to leave the for empty. We could actually also delete it. And we're going to type in here what needs to be done. Okay, after this, we're going to have a input tag. So input is going to be the type of text. And then we're going to also give it a class of just input. Now for the ID, I'm also going to use input. We're going to keep it pretty simple. And then let's say placeholder, enter your task. Okay, underneath of this, we're going to create now a UL, which is going to take all the tasks and maintain them within there. So a UL with a class of task list. And let's also give it a ID of task underscore task. There we go, underscore list. Okay, so that's basically it. And I'm going to create a list item within here just for us to see it right now. So let's create a list item. Let's call this task 01. And again, I typed in task, man. What are you doing? Okay, so there's our task 01, and let's also create a task 02. So we have two tasks. Task 02. Okay, now let's link up right after our form. Let's link up our script. So script with the source of, let's say, task.js. Okay, now let's create our style.css. Style.css, and let's start styling it. But first we need to open it. Okay, so let's open this up using live server. And as always, I'm going to take this and snap it to the right side of it. Okay, let's bring this to the left. Close this one up. Open. Actually, that's perfect. Let's also open up our style.css. And now let's start by taking our body tag, and let's say height 100 viewport heights, width 100 viewport width, and let's change the background color. Now I'm going to go with the URL. I'm going to go to source.unsplash. I'm going to take this random API, and either you could leave it as a random image. So I'm going to constantly give you a random image. As also center and place it as cover and no repeat. Okay, so there's our image. You could either leave it this way, or I just chose a specific image for this, and so I'm going to replace the random with the ID of the image. And not this one, it was the other one. Okay, so there we go. There's our image. Now for the tasks, I'm actually seeing that we have a problem. Didn't I copy in material CSS? Style.css materializes in there. ID of input, class of input type. Oh, I just deleted text, and there we go. There's our input. Okay, let's go back to CSS. Now let's grab onto the H1 up there, and let's text align it to the center, and let's change the color to a aqua color. Boom. Now next up, we're going to take the form. We're going to position it relative, push it down from the top with 10 viewport heights. Then we're going to give it a max width of 450 pixels. And also assign the margin to auto, so it's going to be pushed into the center of the page. Auto. There we go. Okay, so now we have our form in the center of the page. Let me also zoom in here a bit. This is too much. I think you can still see this. Okay, now as you can see, we're inputting here in a dark color. So let's grab onto our input tag and change the color of the input to also aqua. There we go. And let's also give the text a text shadow of 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 1 pixel, and hash 333. Okay, so now if I type in here something into my input, it's going to have a bit of a text shadow and also pop out. Okay, now let's go back to our form. So we set it as auto for the margin, so it's going to be centered in the center of the page. Let's also give it a background color of, let's say, RGBA of a dark color. So I'm going to RGBA, use 0 for the red, 0 for the green, 0 for the blue, and let's give it a bit of a opacity of 0.7. So there's our form right there. I still want to be able to see through the form, so you can see here is dark, but you can still see through it. This is why I'm going to use the opacity of the alpha of 0.7. Now let's also give it the padding. I'm going to give it all around padding, so not just top and bottom or something like that, but all around padding of 2 rem. Now let's change the border, not the size. Let's change the border radius to, let's say, 25 pixels. Okay. Well, actually, that's it. Should I give it a bit of a box shadow? Let's also give it a box shadow. Why not? Why not? Box shadow, let's say 0, 0, 10 pixels, 2 pixels, pixel, and here 10 pixel. And let's go with the RGBA of, let's say, 5. Okay, so there's a bit of a shadow right underneath of that. Okay, now there should be, there's our allies. So let's style the allies first of all so we can see them. We're going to change the color also to aqua. Aqua. Okay, let's give this a width of 100% of its container. So all of the items, all of the list items would take up 100%. Okay, now do I still have that dot in there? No, I don't have it. Let's change the background color to RGBA of 280, 18. So RGBA, come on, 218, 212, and 212, and 0.2. Okay, so they have a bit of a lighter background color. Let's also increase their font size to 1.8 rem. Next up, let's give them a text shadow of the same text shadow that we had up there. So 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 1 pixel, and hash free. Okay, we're going to set the text align to the center, so they'll also be aligned to the center of the page. And let's give them a border radius, the same border radius that we have up there, so it's going to look approximately the same. Then let's change the display to display flex. I'm going to justify the content, so now we can justify the content with space between. Okay, now let's also give them a bit of a padding. And this time I'm going to use 0 for top and bottom and 2 rem for left and right. Now after our padding, we're going to also give them a border of 1 pixel, so all around border of 1 pixel solid, and the same aqua color. I love this aqua color. Just look at it, how nice it is. Okay, let's give them a margin from the bottom. So each of them would, no, not left, bottom. There we go. So each of them will have a margin to the bottom of 1 rem. So it's going to push them a bit down. And let's also give them a box shadow. And we're going to use the same box shadows, 1, 0, 0, 10 pixels, 2 pixels. But for the RGB, and hey, should be pixel. I'm still thinking about games when I'm typing in XP. So 2 pixels and a RGBA. And let's go here with a color of 11 for the reds, 16 for the blues, and 66 for the greens. And let's go with the alpha of 0.6. Okay. And the last thing I want to do is to give them a bit of a transition. So let's say transition 0.3 seconds and linear. Linear. There we go. Okay, and this transition is only for when I'm deleting them, so they have a bit of a transition. Now let's also give them a hover state. So each time we hover over a list item, so list item hover. And when we hover over them, we want the background color to change a bit, so we know that we are over a specific list item. Let's change the background color to RGB. Let's use this one. Let's change this to 3. Let's change it to 4. Be a bit more darker, so when I hover over one of them, you can see it highlights. It is highlighted. And I'm going to also give this a transition of 0.3 seconds. So it's going to take a bit until it's highlighted. Okay, next I'm going to take the class of task -list. I'm going to select the allies, and when they have a class of completed, then the color of the text, let's delete this one. Then the color of the text is going to change to, let's say, green yellow color. Okay, so only when they have the class of completed. Now also let's create a class of delete task. And when this class exists, task, and when this class exists, I want the cursor to be pointer. Okay, there we go. Now that's basically it for our UI. Next up is the JavaScript part. Okay, so let's create a JavaScript file first of all. So let's go to our folder back and let's get a file, and we called it task.js. Not cast. Task.js. So let's also open up our console using F12 or right click and then go from elements to console. And let's hit the refresh. Now let's create a const for the form. So let's also grab onto the form document dot get element by ID, or use get quiz, or use query selector if you want. I'm going to use get element by ID this time. We're going to grab onto the ID of form. I think I used a capital F for the ID. Okay, now let's also console log our form. Let's see if we grabbed onto it correctly. And there we go, there's our form. Next up, we're going to grab onto two more things. First thing will be the input. So I'm going to select both of them, input, and this will also capital I, or let's just see, ID of input. No, it should be this way. Okay, now it should work. Let's also console log it. Okay, there's also our input. And next up, we're going to grab onto the task list. So we're going to create another const with task list. And here we're going to grab onto the ID of task underscore list. Okay, let's see. Let's console log this task list also. And there's a task list. Now, I did show you that there is a event listener. So let's take the form, add event listener. We could use submit, and when the submit happens, a function, blah, 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 blah. We could use something else. Instead of add event listener submit, it's actually doing the same thing. You could type in on submit. Okay, and this is basically a built-in function. So as soon as you do this, we need to assign it to a function. Now you don't do the after the event listener assign it to the function, but we're now giving it a functionality. And you could either type in here function and then open close parenthesis, and within here create a function, or let's take out the function keyword and let's use a arrow function. And let's also give it a event, because we want to prevent the default behavior of the form. So e.prevent default of submitting. Okay, this is the first thing that we're going to do. Now next up, we're going to create another function which is going to called add task. So basically, when we're submitting this form, we're adding a task. Now how can we submit the form? We're simply clicking into the input, typing something in, and hitting on enter. And you can always see it submits this task. Now the add task function is not defined. Of course it's not, because we now need to create our function down here, function, the keyword function, and create the add task. Now how do we want to add a task? Well, let's say if there is a task. So if a task exists, then we want the task value to be equal to the task.task.text. Okay, so as soon as we type in here task, so let's use here the task as an argument in the function. Let's paste in here the task. And now we can grab onto this task. As soon as this task is passed in, let's say task value is equal to the input. So the input from up here dot value. Now instead of this if statement, I could also use a ternary operator. Now the conditional ternary operator is the only JavaScript operator that takes 3 operands. A conditional followed by a question mark. So our conditional was this, okay, the task. So we could take a task, then question mark, then an expression that is to be executed if this condition is true. So exactly what we did here, the task. So if the task exists, then the task.value is equal to the task text. And we need to put this into parentheses, because at the end of it, we need 2 columns. So we need a column. And finally, the expression to execute if the condition is false. So we're just going to return to the task. So it's basically, we're missing here else, nothing. Okay? It's going to just return. It's going to do nothing. Now this is exactly equal to what is up here. And copy this out and leave the other one in. Comment this out and the other one is going to be left in there. So let's try this out by console logging the task value. Okay, so let's type something in here, enter, and there's a task value. Okay, and I'm going to comment this one out just to show you that it's working. I'm going to also use our if statement. So let's type something in here, hit enter, and exactly what we typed in here is going to be output in our console logs, is going to be assigned to the task value. So let's comment this out. And let's use a ternary operator from now on. Now let's create another condition. So if the task value exists, then we're going to launch a function called display task. And if not, then return to the task value. Now target task value and close it up. Now let's create this function. So function display task, open and close parentheses, open and close curly brackets. Now within here we're going to create a const, and let's say new task. And we're going to assign this new task to the document.create element. And we're going to create a li. We're going to create a list item. Each time we're going to input something in here, is going to launch this function, and this function is going to create a list item. Now we need to assign the list item to something. So let's say new task dot inner HTML is going to be equal to the task value. Okay, so let's try this out. Let's type something in here, and there's a task. And now in order to display it within our DOM, we just need to take the task list dot append child, and now we can append this new task to the task list. So append child, and this will append a new task. Okay, so let's try this out. If we type something in here, hit enter, then a new li is going to be created and is going to be put into the HTML of the new text, the inner HTML, and this new text task is going to be inputted into the task list. Okay, so if I create another one, so hit enter, so far and so on. But you can see this is not deleting, so we need to clear the input by typing in input.value. I'm going to assign it to an empty string, so basically nothing. So now if we type something in here, hit enter, it's going to disappear. We can type in another thing, and there we go, another task. Now we're not done yet, because after we assign this, we also want to have event listeners we want to select our tasks. So we're going to go over our task list, and we're going to say new task, and either I could add event listener and on click, and if we listen to a click, and so far and so on. But I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do exactly as we did up here. So there we could also use the onClick function, and the same thing as we did up there, we need to assign it to a function now. We're going to assign it to an arrow function, and this will grab onto the new task, is going to create or actually toggle, which is adding and removing a class of completed. Okay, so we could actually we could do this. I could do it actually also here. So console log new task. So if I click on one, let's introduce one. If I click on it, it should have now the class completed. Okay, as you can see, the class completed as we created it in our CSS. So if the li has a class of completed, then the text would turn into yellow-green, and it also does. Okay, let's comment this part out. Now let's take our task again, and let's check if it has that class of completed. So class list dot contains the class of completed completed. Then we will use a ternary operator again. So this is a bit more complicated, but I want you to get used to ternary operators. So question mark. So order is saying that if this is true, if the new task class list contains the class of completed, then open close parenthesis and open close parenthesis again. We're going to group something. We're going to take the new task dot inner HTML, and we're going to add to it using a template literal a span tag. Not here, but here span. Within our span tag, going to use $, open close curly brackets, and within here we're going to add the task value. Now also going to use for the check mark a HTML command, which is ampersand, there's an ampersand hash 1000, and hey, there we go. So 100 and 4 at the end. Okay, and also semicolon. We have something open, we didn't close it up. Oh, because it's not finished yet. So wait. So we have the input with the check mark. Then we're going to create another span. New, so span tag. Let's go in a span tag. And please be careful, because now I'm going to include something in the span tag. So I could do here a onClick event, which is going to listen for a function. It's going to call delete task and open and close parentheses. And within here, we're going to create now a delete sign. And for this, we're going to use ampersand hash 10060. Okay, let's hit save. I'm still not closing up something in here. Let's see. This opens here, this closes here. Why are you not happy? So we got this, because I'm not done with our condition. Now, still remaining within the yellow parentheses, we're going to create another condition. So let's type in here, comma, new task dot class list dot toggle. Going to toggle here the class of delete task. Now I'm going to close it with a column, open close parenthesis. This will create a group, and we're going to group it in here, another new task. So if this is not true, we're going now in the else statement. If this is not true, then else dot in HTML is equal to a template string or a template literal of $sign open close curly brackets, and within here we're going to type in the task value. Okay, and we still have another condition, because this should be so comma and new task dot class list dot toggle delete task. This should be a class, so delete task. Okay, now I know this is a bit complex, but you need to learn this. This is exceptionally good. It's much quicker. So let's type in here a task. Let's hit enter. Let's click on it. You can see we have now the check sign and the delete sign. And now if I click on it again, it's going to appear and disappear. But check it out here. If I click on the delete button, then it's going to delete it. Well, it's not working right now because we're still missing the delete task function. We entered, let me also show you this. We go outside and console log our new task again. New task. Okay, so let's create a new task. Let's say get project. Okay, we console log is on click. Okay, now it's going to console log it, and now check it out. We are going to take a look in this. You can see it has two spans with the value that we typed in here. Okay, get project, and then it has another span, and this span has within it a event listener, which is listening for a function called delete task. Okay, so click on this X sign. Now let's go completely outside and let's create our delete task function. So let's type in the function keyword delete task, open close parenthesis, open close curly bracket, and let's first of all console log document dot query selector, because I want to show you something. Query select all. I'm going to select all of the LIs. So when I'm creating a new task, checking it, clicking on the X sign is going to console log all of the LIs. So it's going to give me a node list. Okay, now we can take this node list and loop over it. So let's say I'm just going to copy this. No, let's take the document dot get query select all. So let's select all of the LIs. And now I'm going to add right here a for each loop. So for each, and let's use here callback function, an arrow function, and this is going to take in a element. So for each element that we select, for each li, we are going to get that element dot class list. Whoa! So get that element dot class list. We're going to check if it contains the delete task class delete task, and if it does contain it, so I'm using a ternary operator again, then element, we're going to use the remove operator dot remove, and else return to the element. Okay, pretty simple. So this is going to actually remove all of the tasks. So let's say task 1 again, task. Let me take out now, comment out these two, so we can now easily add tasks. So let's go in here. Let's say so get project, get team, assign leader, set milestone, get regular feedback, finish project on time. Okay, so let's say we got the project, we got the team, we didn't assign a team leader, we set our milestones, and that's it. So if I click on either one of them, let's click on this one, it's going to delete all of the tasks. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this project, and see you next time. Bye-bye.